It was the 31st of May 2014 in a quiet suburb of Waukesha, Wisconsin. What seemed like a day full of friendship and fun turned out to be a day straight out of an internet horror forum. Two 12-year-old girls lured their friend into the woods and they tried to kill her. Their motive? To prove their loyalty to a creature named Slenderman. A creature that doesn't exist, only as an internet myth. But why did these two 12-year-old girls believe that Slenderman was real? And why did they think that they had to commit such a horrific act? This is the story of the Slenderman stabbing. Hi everyone and welcome back to my second video of this spooky season. I have a cold again, so if I sound a bit stuffy, I think they say that in English, that's why. But I'm gonna try my best to keep my voice healthy and my noise less noisy. Today we will talk about a true crime case and also about an urban legend and how these two are connected to each other. I learned about this case many years ago through a video of Kendall Ray. I will put that one in the description if you want to see it. And somehow this case has always stuck with me because I think I saw that video 7 or 8 years ago. And I always wanted to tackle this subject for a video, and now seems like the best time to do so. And it especially intrigued me because these two girls believed that Slenderman was a real person. And before I knew about this case, I already knew about Slenderman. I used to play a game called Slenderman The 8 Pages, which was recommended by a friend from my work. Colin, maybe he's watching this, I'm not sure, sometimes he does. And this was a very scary game, but also very fun to play. I believe it's still there in online on the internet, so if you want to play it, I'm sure you can find it somewhere. I guess the quality won't be as good as you're used to, but it's scary anyway. And in this game you had to explore a dark forest and you only had a flashlight at your disposal. And the character could not run the entire time, so sometimes you had to walk very slow, which was very frustrating. And you had to find the 8 pages, and if you would find all 8 of them you would win the game. But of course Slenderman was waiting for you and could come any moment, so most of the time I didn't manage to get all the pages. I actually have a video from 2012 or 2013 when I played this game, and you can see how scared I was when Slenderman came. I will put the subtitles under it because I'm speaking Dutch, but it's very funny. If you look at my eyes you can see that I did not see it coming at all. Volgens mij is mijn zaklamp kapot of zo. So I hope you enjoyed this little video of me from my, I think, 18-year-old self, or 17 because I still had braces. But of course I knew that Slenderman was a fictional person, but these girls did not think so. They thought that Slenderman was real, and if they didn't help him in his devious plans, he would do something to them or their families. So therefore these girls decided to lure their best friend into a trap. In this video I will tell you all about the Slenderman legend and how it is connected to this real life story. And before I'm gonna start, I will warn you that if you suffer from a mental illness, or you're very depressed, or you can't handle dark figures, skip this video and watch a happier video of mine. And if not, we are gonna continue right now. With that being said, let's begin. This story starts before 2014. It all started when 2 of the 3 girls started a friendship. The friendship started with Payton and Morgan. They were 2 fish out of water and they didn't really have a lot of friends. Payton was described as a sweet, kind and a very literal child. She was the typical girly girl. She loved rainbows and butterflies, and she also really liked to play with dolls. And she was also very empathetic. She wanted everyone to be included. Morgan, however, was the opposite of her. She was extremely imaginative, and she liked to wear dark clothes with skulls or a little bit gothic style. And something they didn't know at the time, which is very important to know before we're going on with this story, is that Morgan had schizophrenia, which is a very serious illness. And you can't get this diagnosis very easily, so it's a big deal. And people who suffer from it can hear voices or see things that aren't there. They can be delusional and they can act very strangely. So if you don't know that somebody has it, you can think they are a little bit off. And of course, this is just a short summary. There's way more to tell about it. But yeah, if you want to know more about it, you can look up other videos where they explain the whole disease. But it's a very, very serious disease, and those people struggle with their life and they can probably never have a life like we do. But if you have the right treatment and you get the proper diagnosis, you can still live a normal life, and then you can also get therapy. But Morgan wasn't diagnosed yet, so she did not have any of these resources. And her father was also schizophrenic, and he knew that, and he also had the medicine for it. And when Morgan's mother got pregnant, they knew that there was a chance that Morgan could also be schizophrenic. They always kept that in mind, and there were also signs that Morgan could be schizophrenic. One example is that Morgan still believed at an older age that Santa Claus was real, even though her parents told her that they made it up. Sorry if you still believe in it. Now you know the truth. And she was also afraid for monsters under her bed. But I have to say that I think we all had that phase when we were younger. And Morgan's mother, she was also very into spooky and creepy stuff when she was younger. So when Morgan told her about the monsters and other creatures, she didn't really think anything of it, which makes sense to me. It's very difficult for a parent to see the difference between just an interest in spooky elements, because we all have that, otherwise you won't be watching these videos, or if some child is really obsessive and truly believes that it is real. I was also into spooky stuff. I loved ghosts, and I wanted to use stones and talk about witches, and yeah, many of my friends did that when we were like 9 years old, 10 years old. But we knew that there was a possibility that it wasn't real, and eventually we grew out of it. And of course we still like spooky stuff, but not obsessively. So it's very difficult to see where the line is crossed. And yes, Morgan's parents knew that there was a big chance that she could also be schizophrenic. And I can speak out of experience when I say that parents are often in denial, because I also work with children. They don't like to hear it when we tell them that their children are different, and they try to ignore it until it's too late. And in this case, I have to give it to the parents that Morgan was still very young, so it could easily have been normal behavior for a 12-year-old. Morgan was just not your typical girl, and perhaps this is what intrigued Payton, since they were nothing alike. So they were the total opposites, but something about Morgan made Payton decide to join her during the lunch break at their school, the Horning Middle School in Waukesha. And I think the fact that Payton didn't like it when people were left out was one of the reasons why she decided to sit next to Morgan. So the girls sat next to each other and they really enjoyed their time together. Payton thought that Morgan was very funny, but also a little bit lonely, so she decided to become friends with her. They would talk on the phone often when they returned home, and according to both of their parents, they were truly best friends.
Morgan did endure a lot of bullying. especially in the 6th grade by the other students. In the last year, she started to become moodier and a little bit more reclusive.
I made friends with her when I saw that she didn't have any.
Payton truly admired Morgan's paintings and her imagination, and Morgan's fantasy and jokes made everything so much more fun. They were the best friends that you could find. But soon things would change because eventually Morgan met Anissa.
Looking back, Anissa was never really invited to a lot of birthday parties or anything. I don't think she really made friends that easy or talked about any of the sadness or any of the bad things. They knew what each other had gone through, and they were going to be there for each other.
This happened in 2014 in the 6th grade. This made the duo a trio, and that was something that Payton didn't really enjoy. She noticed that Morgan started to change and she didn't like what Morgan was becoming. And beside that, Anissa was really cruel towards Payton. Anissa was very jealous of the friendship that Payton and Morgan already established. But Payton knew that Morgan really loved Anissa, and therefore she decided to remain friends with her. While Payton started to make other friends as well, Morgan grew stranger and even started barking to other students. The teacher thought that it was just a way for Morgan to seek attention, but if you look at it with the knowledge we have now, it was probably a sign that her mental health was deteriorating. Payton wanted to get out of the friendship, but she decided to hold on a little longer because next to Anissa, Morgan didn't really have any other friends. But then things started to change drastically when Anissa came across the story of Slenderman on the internet. She was enthralled in the story and she became super obsessed with it. Eventually Anissa decided to share the story with Morgan. And as I already mentioned before, Morgan was really into dark and scary stuff, so she became very obsessed with the story of Slenderman as well. Morgan even believed that she had seen Slenderman in real life when she was 5 years old. And after she had learned about the story of Slenderman, she claimed that she saw him many more times. Anissa and Morgan both started to believe that Slenderman was real. At first Payton would pretend to see the imaginary friends that Morgan saw, but eventually she grew very scared and she told Morgan that she didn't want to play these games anymore. And this caused a small drift between the two best friends, and therefore Morgan sought comfort in her new friend Anissa. After all, Anissa was the only one who believed that everything that Morgan said was real. And I'm talking about Slenderman the whole time, but who actually is Slenderman? Well, he was created by Eric Knudsen, who used the alias Victor Search. There was a call on Something Awful on the creepypasta website for posters to contribute digitally altered photographs to serve as the basis for new mythologies or stories. So Knudsen posted a picture of a group of teenagers who unknowingly also captured Slenderman on their picture lurking behind them. His size and featureless face gave the picture an eerie and unsettling feeling and captured the imagination of many people. And Slenderman is depicted as an abnormally tall humanoid, and most of the time he wears a black suit and a black tie. His face is completely white and hardly has any features, which gave him a very uncomfortable look. He can extend or stretch his limbs at will. Most of the time he does that with his arms. He also has tentacles on his back, which can only be seen if he wills it. Eventually Knudsen released more stories, altered pictures and snippets of text. It did not take long before other people took this as inspiration and made their own stories, shared that on the internet, or even claimed that they also saw Slenderman in real life. And therefore there are nowadays many stories about Slenderman. It is believed that he resides in these woods and forests and preys on children. He is not afraid to be seen, and therefore you can see him in pictures, and he reveals himself in broad daylight. You never see him walk. He's always floating or drifting around. He kidnaps children and can influence victims to do his bidding, making them perpetrators of crimes and violent acts. He can cause sicknesses, especially a cough known as the Slenderman sickness. And he can make people do certain things to themselves, if you know what I mean. And all this information is the same information that Anissa read about on the Creepypasta forum. And for me, and probably also for you, this is just a story to scare and excite us. But for Anissa and Morgan, it was reality. This creature truly existed and they were both under his influence. And eventually they both decided that they wanted to serve him. And it was Anissa who suggested to Morgan that they both should become proxies of Slenderman. You are probably wondering where the parents were in this story. Well, the parents knew about this, but they just thought that it was all fun and games. Which does make sense to me because at that age you are really trying to experiment and look for exciting new things. I also went to the library to find books about supernatural stuff. It is normal for kids to have weird interests and it helps them to become an adult eventually. It's all part of the process. But of course in this case it proved to be very dangerous. And after Morgan suggested to Anissa that they should become proxies, Anissa asked Morgan how they could do that. Morgan told Anissa that they had to prove their loyalty to Slenderman. And how could they do that? Well, they should kill someone, preferably a child, in the name of Slenderman. Only then he would allow them to become his proxies. They believed that if they would succeed, Slenderman would ask them to join him in his mansion in the woods. There you could have a great life and you would always be protected from him. The girls believed that this mansion was located in the woods of northern Wisconsin. I think it's safe to say that the girls didn't want to kill someone for the thrill, but that they were truly afraid of Slenderman. You have to remember that they thought that Slenderman was truly there and that he could harm them at any time. So for them, the threat of Slenderman was always there. And I'm not trying to defend them, but I'm just trying to make sense of a 12-year-old brain which has 12 more years to develop, or even 15 more years to develop fully. So therefore don't think like a grown-up. And Morgan was of course also schizophrenic, which makes it more real for her. And for Anissa it was probably getting way too caught up in something. You can compare it to when you have an idol and you really want to be in a relationship with that teen idol like Harry Styles for many girls. And when you truly believe that you can have a relationship with that person if he would meet you. You can't separate dreaming from reality anymore. So the girls decided that they had to kill a child. And their eyes looked towards their friend Payton. And something you will hear later is that they also call her Bella. I couldn't find why, but that was Payton's nickname. And they thought killing Payton was the best idea because killing someone that meant a lot to you would be more valuable to Slenderman. The only thing they had to do now was to come up with a plan. And this plan was going to be on Morgan's 12th birthday because Morgan wanted to have a sleepover to celebrate. She wanted to invite Anissa and Payton to her house to come stay the night with her. And Morgan told Anissa that this would be the night that they were going to sacrifice their beloved friend Bella to Slenderman. so that they could join him in his mansion. And according to Payton's parents, she was really excited to go to this sleepover. Even though her friendship had changed, she was still Morgan's best friend, and she was really excited to go there.
It's Friday night in Waukesha, Wisconsin, a Milwaukee suburb. Payton is getting ready to celebrate her best friend Morgan Geyser's birthday at that slumber party.
Payton was so excited.
She really couldn't wait, and she just knew that they were gonna have a lot of fun. And the sleepover happened on the 30th of May 2014. Before the sleepover started, the girls went to Skateland. On Friday night, Skateland had free pizzas, so they went there to skate and eat a lot of pizza. And after they went there, they returned to Morgan's house. They played with dolls and they were giggling and having a great time.
They played up in Morgan's bedroom, ran up and down the stairs, giggling and laughing, and I mean, it was just a normal night.
Anissa and Morgan told Payton that they wanted to sleep very early, which was strange to Payton. Normally, when Payton would have a sleepover with Morgan, she wanted to stay up the entire night. But of course, unbeknown to Payton, Morgan had her reasons. She and Anissa wanted to kill Payton in her sleep. It was the plan to kill Payton then and there, but Anissa and Morgan got really scared and backed off. Morgan thought that Payton deserved one final night and a morning of fun. The next morning, Payton woke up, but the girls were already downstairs. They were both on the computer. Morgan's mother made them breakfast, which was donuts and strawberries, and they had a great time together. According to Morgan's mother, it was a beautiful Saturday. It didn't seem like the girls were acting strange. The girls were just laughing and having fun, so there was no way that Morgan's mother could notice the plans that her daughter and her friend had. Eventually, Morgan asked her mother if they were allowed to go to the park without any adults to join them. And normally her parents wouldn't allow her that, but since it was her birthday and she was with two of her friends, her mother decided to agree. And also, once again, I don't think it's strange because when I was that age, I was also allowed to go everywhere with my friends without my parents. Before they would go to the park, the girls went into the bathroom. Morgan and Anissa wanted to do it here, but once again they chickened out and decided to do it in the park instead. So the girls left Morgan's house and walked towards the heavily wooded David's Park. What Payton didn't know was that Morgan took a blade with her. This blade was a 5-inch long blade, which is 13 centimeters, and she hid it in her backpack to save it for the right time. Anissa and Morgan suggested to play hide and seek. At first, Payton didn't want to play it, but Morgan and Anissa promised her that if she would play it with them, that she could choose the next game. And that made Payton agree to it. Morgan and Payton would hide and Anissa would be the seeker. Anissa told Payton that she should hide under some leaves and sticks, which is a little bit strange if you think about the fact that Anissa was the one who was gonna look for her, but Payton listened to her and did what she said.
Anissa told me to lie on the ground and cover myself in sticks and leaves and stuff, but it was really just a trick.
Eventually, Payton and Morgan were both found by Anissa. Payton was still laying underneath the sticks and leaves, and this was the moment that Morgan and Anissa were waiting for. This was their chance. Morgan was going to be the one who was going to stab Payton. This was something that Anissa and Morgan had discussed while they were on the computer that morning. But Morgan gave the knife to Anissa and told her that she couldn't do it. According to Morgan, Anissa would know where the soft spots were. But Anissa gave the knife back to Morgan and told her to go ballistic. Then Morgan responded by saying, "I'm not doing it until you tell me to do so." Anissa started to walk 5 feet away and she told Morgan, "Now, Morgan, now." Anissa turned her back towards her friends and Morgan knew that this was the right time. Morgan sat on Payton's legs so that she couldn't move. She got her face real close towards Payton and she whispered in her ear, "I'm so sorry.
I trusted you, and then they told me to lay down, you'll lose blood slower."
Payton was really scared and she felt very much betrayed. She was screaming and she asked her friends why they would do this to her. And I can't imagine how that feels. It's so awful. It really gives me the shivers. Morgan told Payton, "Don't worry, I'm only a little kitty cat." And after she said that, she jumped on top of Payton and started to stab her repeatedly, 19 times to be exact. Payton's body started to get in shock, so she didn't really feel anything. The girls told Payton to lay down and stay there, because that way she would lose blood slower. They also told her that they were going to get help, but this was, of course, a lie. Only to make sure that Payton would remain calm. But Payton tried to get up and she panicked. She couldn't see anything, she was unable to walk, and she had a hard time breathing. The girls ran away and Payton was all alone in the park. But Payton wasn't going to give up. And I'm really glad that she did what she did, because otherwise I'm not sure how this story would have ended. Payton was laying for what felt like 10 minutes after she was being stabbed. Something inside her told her to stand up and walk to some grass. Even though Payton was unable to walk, she tried to do it anyway. She got up and grabbed a couple trees for support. Then she stumbled and crawled until she hit a patch of grass. She lay down because she was in a lot of pain and could hardly breathe. She was getting weaker and weaker each passing second. Time was of the essence. Not long after that, a cyclist named Greg Steinberg was riding his bike. He came across a path that was chained off. Thank God he decided to ignore it and took the path anyway. Otherwise, once again, things could have been very different.
A bicyclist notices Payton bloodied and lying in the grass. He calls 911. Officer Dan Klein is the first on the scene.
I asked her who did this, and she told me her friend Morgan.
Payton tells paramedics she's been stabbed.
When he was biking, he noticed Payton laying in the grass. She was covered in blood and she was exhausted, close to passing out. She asked him for help and she told him that she was stabbed multiple times. He immediately called 911.
911. What's the address of your emergency?
Waukesha County, Lynn. I'm transferring over a caller on Big Bend at the dead end just south of Rivera.
Okay.
Came upon a 12-year-old female. She appears to be stabbed.
She appears to be what?
Stabbed.
Stabbed?
Correct.
Okay.
Sir, you still there?
Yes.
Hi, sir. So, are you with this 12-year-old female?
Yes, she says she's having trouble breathing. She said she was stabbed multiple times.
Stabbed multiple times?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Are you with her right now?
Yes.
Is she awake?
She's awake.
Is she breathing?
Yeah, she's breathing. She said she can take shallow breaths. She's alert.
Okay, stay with her. We're sending the police department. Don't hang up, okay?
The ambulance arrived and rushed Payton to the Pro Health Waukesha Memorial Hospital. Payton's arms, legs and abdomen were covered in stab wounds. The doctors even feared that she would not survive. Her parents, of course, came as fast as they could. Payton was really scared and her mother tried to comfort her. She told Payton that she was going to be okay, but of course, everything was really uncertain. She did not know if this was the truth. The doctors started to perform emergency surgery, and they were truly shocked by her critical injuries.
I said, "You're gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine." But I could see that she was covered. Her arms and her legs and her abdomen, they were covered in stab wounds.
The surgeon treating Payton told me if the stab wound to the chest had been the width of a human hair deeper, she would not have survived.
The stab wounds on her arms and legs had only damaged soft tissue, but the two in her torso had hit major organs. One of the stab wounds had damaged her liver and stomach. And Payton truly had an angel on her shoulder, because if the other stab wound in her torso would have been less than a millimeter deeper, it would have penetrated her heart. She couldn't have survived that and she would die within a few minutes. But since that didn't happen, Payton's surgery was successful and Payton survived. When Payton woke up, there was only one question in her mind. Where were the other girls? Where did they go? Did they get away? Were they captured? But Payton wasn't able to say those words vocally. She had to write them down on a whiteboard because she still had trouble breathing. After 10 days in the hospital, she was released and she started school again in the fall of 2014. Her recovery would be very difficult and her life would forever be changed. And what about Morgan and Anissa? Well, of course they weren't trying to find help for Payton. They were trying to get to Slenderman's mansion to become one of his proxies.
We just knew that Payton told us Morgan stabbed her and the police hadn't been able to find the girls.
And in fact, police believe those girls were walking.
Yeah.
They were going to find a mansion in the woods.
Oh, the mansion, yeah, the mansion in the woods. They were going to the Nicolay Forest because they believed that there was a mansion there that Slenderman lived in.
And since they believed it was somewhere in the north of Waukesha, most likely in the Nicolay National Forest, that's where they were heading. And they decided to walk there, which is insane because even if you would take the car, it would still be a 4 to 5 hour drive. So walking there wasn't really an option for them. But of course they couldn't understand that, so they decided to do it anyway. They took the knife with them in their bag and they started walking. At 2:53 in the afternoon, the girls were located by the sheriff's department on the side of the Y-94. The girls had walked for 5 hours straight and they had made it to the north part of the city. And when they were located, they were sitting on the side of the freeway. The police found them with the bag and the knife. They asked them if they were involved in the stabbing and they didn't deny it. So the girls were taken to the police station and they were interrogated by the detectives. Not in the same room, but in separate rooms, so that they could compare the stories. And in Wisconsin, at least during that time, the police was allowed to interrogate children without the presence of parents or lawyers. But this is different per state. So Anissa and Morgan were both interrogated without the presence of their parents or a guardian. And these interrogations lasted for hours. And you might think that's cruel, but if you wait longer with the interrogations, stories can change or they can be influenced by people, so you need to get the facts as fast as you can. The girls were very calm. Anissa was covered in blood and she didn't even notice it or cared about it. And Morgan was even singing and dancing in the interrogation room. She seemed very comfortable in her situation. She was also covered in blood and did not care about it. She did ask the detective if Payton was still alive, but she sounded really unbothered.
Morgan seemed like she was very calm, very relaxed. I mean, she's at a police department and she's covered in blood.
Is she dead?
I don't know. She was taken to the hospital.
What? I was just wondering.
The girls both claimed that it was not their intention to kill Payton, but that if they didn't do it, Slenderman would come for them and kill them or their family members.
So did you guys talk about doing this beforehand?
Anissa told me we had to.
Why?
Because she said that he'd kill our families.
Who's he?
A man. I didn't know him, but Anissa knew him.
Who's Slenderman?
He's this tall, faceless man who preys on children. at his own will, he can, exploit these tendrils from his back. Morgan said, we have to kill Bella.
They also confessed that they were planning this attack for months. And when you watch their interrogation videos, you can truly see that they are scared of Slenderman. You can also hear no hatred towards Payton. And once again, I'm not justifying it. Payton was probably an easy target for them because she was already their friend and therefore it was easy to mislead her and to spend time with her. It is really a difficult situation because yes, they did something awful and unforgiving, but once again, they were not in their right minds. Anissa and Morgan were incarcerated, and before there would be a trial, there were pre-trial psychiatric evaluations. Morgan disclosed lifelong visual and auditory hallucinations which started in her early childhood. She would see figures as ghosts, colors melting down walls, and imaginary friends named Maggie and Seth. There was also a figure that she called It, and no, it was not a clown. The body looked like smoke and ink. It would stand behind her in the mirror or shift around corners. She also told experts that she often talked with Severus Snape and Voldemort from Harry Potter. Because of this behavior, Morgan was relocated to the Winnebago Mental Health Institute to determine if she was competent to stand trial. And finally, on October the 22nd of 2014, she was diagnosed with early onset childhood schizophrenia. She had a hard time to separate delusions from reality. And eventually they started to give her different medication, and after she got this medication, she started to show true remorse and emotions that we would broadcast when we have committed such an awful crime. She truly felt guilt and remorse, and she wished that she had never done it. On March the 23rd, 2016, she was returned to the country jail to await her trial. But her mental health deteriorated once again. So during the trial, she was committed to the Winnebago Mental Health Institute once again, where she was the youngest patient. The girls both pleaded not guilty due to insanity, and Anissa told the judges that she didn't really believe that they would actually do the deed until she saw Morgan with the knife. And the girls were on trial as adults while they were juveniles. And they were, of course, 12-year-old when they did the deed. And this is probably controversial, but I don't understand why they were allowed to get adult sentences. That would mean that if you make one bad choice in your life while your brain is not developed yet, that you can rot your entire life in a cell. And I don't think that that's fair, even though you did something horrible. I always believe in a second chance, especially for young people. And yes, you need to get a sentence. You have to face the consequences of your actions, but to a degree. Anissa pleaded guilty to a second-degree attempted homicide in August 2017. In September, a jury ruled that she was mentally ill at the time of the attempted murder, and they found her not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. And this is of course a big relief that they could see that she was sick. She was sentenced to a maximum of 25 years in a psychiatric facility because of her plea agreement. She could apply for a supervised release, but she had to spend at least 3 years in a psychiatric hospital. The 3 years she had spent in juvenile detention would be counted as well. And as for Morgan, her attorneys argued in court documents that she suffered from schizophrenia and psychotic spectrum disorder, and that made her delusional and believe in paranormal things. Morgan pleaded guilty in October of 2017. She accepted a plea offer that if she pleaded guilty, she wouldn't get a trial. She would go through further evaluations by psychiatrists so that they could figure out how long she would have to spend in a forensic psychiatric hospital. What an annoying word. I'm really done with it. When you don't speak English as your native language, it's very annoying to say these words. So she pleaded guilty, but she was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or disorder. She was sentenced to 40 years in a psychiatric hospital. At first, Morgan had no windows in her cell and no outside time. She was also not allowed to see her family. And for someone with a very serious illness, this is only making the illness worse. It's very dangerous and inhumane. It really feels like we have learned nothing from the Middle Ages when people who had mental illnesses were locked up and put away. But luckily, this wasn't a situation that she would be in for a very long time. In March 2021, Anissa applied for conditional release, and during that time she was 19 years old already. She wrote many letters in which she acknowledges her mental illness and all the pain she had caused. She takes full responsibility and she vowed that she would never touch a weapon.
I know that nothing I say is going to make this right, Your Honor, and nothing I say is going to fix what I broke. I'm never going to let this happen again, and I'm sorry.
She was granted a conditional release after spending more than 4 years in a psychiatric facility. She was released on September 13th, 2021. She must live with her father and she isn't allowed to use the internet, only when he's watching her. She also had to wear a GPS tracker and she needed to proceed with her psychiatric treatment. And I think that's fair. In 2023, her GPS was removed because of her good behavior. And another thing she is not allowed is to contact Payton until at least 2039. As for Morgan, and this is something that happened recently, in January 2025, so this year, a judge ordered her release. An expert testimony claimed that she had made notable progress, and this is also something that the Mental Health Institute agreed upon, and that she was no longer a safety risk. And therefore Morgan was released and she is now 22 years old. Upon her release, she must spend 60 days in a group home under supervision. But this has not happened yet because they are still having trouble to find her a group home. She was in a group home, but Payton's mother argued that this group home was too close to where Payton lived. So Morgan was forced to leave that group home. So for now she has to stay in the mental facility until they can find her a group home to start her life again.
Morgan's in good spirits. Morgan is looking forward to the next stage. Morgan has talked about wanting to be a librarian, wanting to continue publishing her writings, wanting to be in the art.
And what about sweet and tough Payton? She would have many bad nightmares, especially about the moment when Morgan was sitting on her with her knife and trying to stab her or stabbing her. And of course, she's covered in scars, which is a big everyday reminder of what happened to her. And I really hope that she can also see the scars in a positive light, because they should also be a reminder for her that she is super tough and that she survived this. After the attack, Payton had to sleep in the room of her parents because she was afraid to sleep alone. She also didn't want to go into the basement of her own house because this was the place where she last spent time with Morgan before this all happened. The last time that she came to her home. She tried to pick up her life and she recovered very fast. She made new friends and eventually she went to sleepovers again. But of course her personality was forever changed.
I shouldn't be alive. I really shouldn't after what happened.
She wasn't as carefree anymore. She became more reserved and cautious. She had a hard time trusting her friends, and even trusting her family proved to be difficult. But who would blame her though? I think that I would do the same. But of course, if you know Payton a little bit after this story, she remained positive because she is just a happy, positive girl. She really loves animals and loves spending time with her friends. She enjoys going to school and she is an excellent student.
I would say that way beyond expectations. I'm astonished at the way that she's been able to recover.
And tonight, we are happy to show you the pictures. Her walk down the driveway to the car. Mom driving her back to school.
She's an amazing child.
She's meant to do something special.
And before I finish this video, I want to focus on the parents once more. Because what I read a lot in comments under videos about this subject or articles is that they blame the parents mostly. That the parents didn't raise them well or didn't check them enough. But remember that this was a very different time. Even though it's only 11 years ago, children didn't walk around with tracking devices or cell phones. Of course they were there, but they were hardly used. And even then, parents can try everything that's possible to do and still don't see things, or children keep secrets from them. I think we all did that at one point. They can't see everything. And once again, I work with kids, so I see it as well. Some children are very difficult and their parents have the best education or are the perfect parents and still the children have problems. Or some parents are negligent and those children are doing everything perfect. It doesn't say anything. Of course, if your parents treat you a certain way, there is a possibility that you would become a certain person. But this is not always the case. Sometimes it's just bad luck. And these parents were actually monitoring their children. They had limited screen time and they were very much involved in their lives. And they also loved being parents. And at first, Payton's parents were very angry at the parents as well, especially when they discovered that Morgan's father was also schizophrenic. The mother of Payton thought that Morgan's parents were in denial about Morgan's symptoms, but they are not angry at them anymore because they were going through a hell as well. Because of course, no parent wants their children to be in a hospital for psychiatric treatment or in prison. It's a different hell, but a hell nonetheless. And Payton also doesn't blame the parents, but rather Morgan's mental illness, which I think is very brave of Payton to say that. Because I understand it if she says that she doesn't understand anything about it. So this was my video about the Slenderman stabbing. A very sad story for all parties involved, but especially for Payton. If Morgan was diagnosed with schizophrenia earlier, I really think that this could all have been avoided. But once again, many people did not see the signs. Even the teachers did not see it. And who knows, maybe Morgan was hiding it really well. It is very difficult to diagnose children because they change all the time. Once again, I know it from experience. But I do have to say that I'm a big supporter of early diagnosis. I think the sooner you know that someone has a disorder, the faster you can help them. And it's better to diagnose them too fast than to not diagnose them at all. You can always change the diagnosis. And of course, that's also not the ideal situation, but it's better than what happened in this situation. And believe me when I say that this is not the only time something like this happens. It happens more than you know. And it's not only to make sure that there are no new victims, but it's also just good for the child to get the help that they need. And this way they can have a happier life and more understanding. I'm at least very happy that Payton is doing so well and that she's living a good life. And I'm sure that she will live with the scars inside and out for the rest of her life. But she will find her way, I'm certain of it. A bright and beautiful future is waiting for her because she deserves that. And for the other two girls, I really hope that they can find a way to heal. Of course, they will always have that sickness inside them. But I'm just hoping that they can find a way to live their life as happy as possible. And that they can still receive the help that they need. And that they can find a purpose in life. And maybe they can do something in their life to help other people instead of hurting them. So this was my video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Even though it's a very sad story. But at least Payton survived it. Wow, I have 3 other videos left and the next one will be about haunted objects. if they are real, what they inspired, and you probably also know some of them because you have seen them in films or read about them in books. So stay tuned for that video, and I see you in the next spooky video. And if you like it, please subscribe to my channel, give a comment and like the video, and that would help me a lot. Once again, thank you so much, and I see you next week. I'm so dumb because I placed all these lights around me and I didn't put them on. Stupid.